behind the Lamborghini name is one of the most unlikely stories in automotive history. A story born not in a racetrack or an engineering lab, but in a moment of pure unfiltered humiliation. It's a story of a farmer's son who refused to be talked down to, of a brand that rose to the very top and then crashed just as hard, and of a raging bull that somehow, against every odd, found its way back. But to make sense of all of it, we have to go back to where it really started. Not to a factory floor, but to a small Italian farm. Ferruccio Lamborghini was born on April 28, 1916, in Renazzo di Cento, a quiet village in the Emilia-Romagna region of northern Italy. His parents were grape farmers, hardworking, modest people who assumed their eldest son would one day take over the land and continue the family tradition. Ferruccio, however, had other ideas. From the time he was a young boy, he showed almost no interest in farming itself, but a consuming obsession with the machines that powered it. While his siblings played in the fields, Ferruccio was crouched under tractors, dismantling engines, figuring out how every single part worked. His father eventually gave in and enrolled him at the Fratelli Taddea Technical Institute near Bologna, where Ferruccio quickly proved he was no ordinary student. He didn't just learn how machines worked, and he figured out how to make them work better. But before he could put any of that talent to real use, the Second World War intervened. In 1940, Ferruccio was drafted into the Italian Royal Air Force and stationed as a vehicle mechanic on the island of Rhodes. While most soldiers spent the war waiting, Ferruccio spent it working. He was so skilled that he was quickly promoted to head the entire vehicle maintenance unit, fixing, modifying, and improvising solutions for the Italian and later the German forces stationed there. When Rhodes fell to the British, he was briefly held as a prisoner of war. But even as a prisoner, his reputation as a mechanic kept him useful, and eventually he was allowed to continue working. When the war finally ended in 1945, Ferruccio came home to Italy with nothing but his tools and a mind full of ideas. And it was in that precise moment, standing in the wreckage of post-war Italy, surrounded by piles of abandoned military machinery, that he made his first truly brilliant move. He saw something nobody else did. Where everyone else saw junk, Ferruccio saw opportunity. Italy's farmland had been devastated by the war. Farmers desperately needed equipment to rebuild, and here were thousands of military vehicles sitting idle and going to rust. Ferruccio began converting surplus military parts into agricultural tractors. Crude at first, but functional and crucially affordable. He called his first model the Carioca, and farmers loved it. By 1948, he had founded Lamborghini Trattori, and the business grew at a pace even he hadn't anticipated. Italy was experiencing an economic boom, farmland was being revitalized, and Ferruccio's tractors were everywhere. He had the rare ability, as one who knew him once said, to understand what people needed a minute before the competition did. By his early 40s, Ferruccio Lamborghini was one of the wealthiest men in Italy. And like many wealthy men, he rewarded himself with the finest things available. Fine food, fine wine, and above all, fine cars. In 1958, Ferruccio bought his first Ferrari, then another, and another after that. Over the following years, he collected several, including the prestigious Ferrari 250 GT, one of the most coveted road cars in Europe. He loved driving them. He loved showing them off to clients over business dinners. There was just one problem: the clutch. Time and again, Ferruccio noticed that the clutch on his Ferraris would fail, and each time it did, he had to make the expensive trip to the Ferrari factory in Maranello to have it rebuilt. A journey that cost him not just money, but time and dignity. Ferrari's after-sales service was famously dismissive, the kind of arrogance that only comes from knowing your product is the best in the world. But here's what made Ferruccio truly furious, and this is the part of the story that changed everything. One day, he had one of his own mechanics disassemble the clutch from his Ferrari, and what they found inside was staggering. The clutch in that exotic, expensive, prestigious sports car was the exact same commercially available clutch fitted to Lamborghini's own tractors. He had been paying 1,000 lire every time for something worth 10. He was livid. And so in the early 1960s, Ferruccio Lamborghini did what any self-respecting engineer would do. He drove to Maranello and knocked on Enzo Ferrari's door. The meeting was short, devastatingly short. Ferruccio explained the clutch problem and made a practical suggestion for how to fix it. Enzo Ferrari, a man of absolute pride who did not take well to being corrected by anyone, let alone a tractor manufacturer, shut him down immediately. The response, which has since become one of the most famous dismissals in automotive history, was something along the lines of, "Leave the cars to me. You go back to making tractors." Ferruccio drove home furious, and on that drive back, a decision was made that would shake the entire world of supercars to its core. He would build a car, not just any car, a better car than Ferrari's, a car that was faster, more refined, and built with the kind of engineering integrity that Enzo Ferrari, for all his genius, apparently couldn't be bothered with. What happened next is where Ferruccio's real genius revealed itself. Because he understood something that most people would have overlooked in a moment of rage. He needed the right people. As it happened, Enzo Ferrari had recently made a catastrophic management mistake. In 1961, a group of Ferrari's best engineers, and including the legendary Giotto Bizzarini, who had designed the celebrated Ferrari 250 GTO engine, had confronted Ferrari over internal company tensions. Ferrari fired all 5 of them. It became known simply as the Palace Revolt, and it was the greatest gift Ferruccio could have received. He approached the exiled engineers immediately. Bizzarini was hired to design the engine. 2 young talents, Giampaolo Dallara and Giampaolo Stanzani, were brought on for the rest. A factory was built from scratch in Sant'Agata Bolognese, just 40 minutes from Maranello. And by May of 1963, Automobili Lamborghini was officially founded. The whole thing, from insult to company, had taken less than 2 years. By October of 1963, the first Lamborghini, the 350 GTV, was presented at the Turin Motor Show. It had a flat hood concealing a V12 engine producing 360 horsepower, a lightweight aluminum masterpiece designed by the very men Ferrari had thrown away. It wasn't the most polished debut. The car shown at Turin was actually a shell without a fully working engine. Ferruccio didn't want to wait another year to make his entrance, but the statement was made. Lamborghini was here. The production version, renamed the 350 GT, arrived in 1964. 13 cars were bought on the spot. 120 were eventually built. It wasn't enough to worry Enzo Ferrari just yet, but it was a start. And then, in 1965, Lamborghini did something nobody expected. At the Turin Motor Show that year, Lamborghini unveiled a concept that stopped the entire automotive world cold. It was called the Miura. The Miura was unlike anything that had come before it. Dallara and Stanzani had done something genuinely revolutionary. They placed the engine not in the front or the rear, but transversely in the middle of the car, directly behind the driver. This mid-engine layout, borrowed from Formula One racing, gave the Miura a weight balance, so perfectly distributed that it drove unlike any road car that had ever existed. It was also breathtakingly beautiful. Its long, low silhouette looked like it had been designed by someone who understood that a car could be a work of art. At its debut, the Miura was the fastest production car in the world, capable of reaching 280 kilometers per hour and hitting 100 kilometers per hour from a standstill in 6.7 seconds. When it entered full production in 1967, it didn't just put Lamborghini on the map, it rewrote the map entirely. Enzo Ferrari, the man who had told Ferruccio to go back to his tractors, was paying very close attention now. A total of 764 Miuras were built before production ended in 1973. Today, a single Miura is valued at over $4 million. The success of the Miura launched Lamborghini into a decade of extraordinary momentum. Model after model followed, each one more outrageous than the last, each one confirming that this brand from a small Italian town had not just challenged Ferrari, but redefined what a supercar could be. In 1974, a new model appeared that would become one of the most iconic cars in history, not just in sales, but in culture, the Countach. With its sharp, almost sci-fi wedge shape and its scissor doors that opened vertically toward the sky, the Countach looked like it had been dropped from another planet. It became the poster on 1 million bedroom walls across the world, the car every child dreamed of and every adult secretly wanted. Ferruccio had done it. He had turned wounded pride into one of the greatest car brands in existence. But Ferruccio himself wouldn't be there to see where it went next. The early 1970s were a time of enormous pressure. The 1973 worldwide financial downturn, combined with the global oil crisis, hit the luxury automotive industry with brutal force. People stopped buying expensive, fuel-hungry supercars. Sales collapsed. Ferruccio Lamborghini, always the businessman as much as the engineer, read the situation and made a painful but practical decision. In 1974, he sold his shares in the company and walked away. He retired to the Umbrian countryside, bought a vineyard, and spent the rest of his life doing something remarkably close to what his father had always wanted for him: working the land. He never truly left the world of engines behind, but his time at the wheel of the company he had built was over. And without him, what followed was chaos. The new owners, like a pair of Swiss businessmen, equally struggled immediately. They had the name, the factory, and the designs, but not the cash or the expertise to keep the ship steady. The oil crisis had decimated demand, and the company limped along without direction. Then came a disaster within a disaster. In the mid-1970s, Lamborghini entered into an agreement with BMW to develop a mid-engine supercar, what would eventually become the BMW M1. It was meant to be Lamborghini's lifeline, a massive contract that would fund the whole operation. But Lamborghini's shaky finances meant they fell behind schedule, and BMW ultimately took the project back in-house. That failure was the last straw. In 1978, Automobili Lamborghini declared bankruptcy. The raging bull was on the floor. A court order placed the company in the hands of two Swiss brothers, Jean-Claude and Patrick Mimran, who took over in 1980 for the remarkable sum of just $3 million. It was, depending on how you look at it, either a bargain or a gamble. It turned out to be both. Patrick Mimran proved to be the unlikely savior that Lamborghini desperately needed. He invested heavily, expanded the model lineup, introduced the Jalpa as a more accessible entry model, and even built the LM002, a monstrous V12-powered off-road vehicle that became a bizarre cult favorite among Middle Eastern royalty and anyone who wanted the most excessive thing on four wheels. Lamborghini slowly regained its footing. By 1987, the Mimrans sold the company to Chrysler Corporation for $25 million, a nearly tenfold return on their investment. Under Chrysler, the legendary Diablo was born, arriving in 1990 with a top speed of 325 kilometers per hour, making it the fastest production car in the world at the time. But Chrysler's commitment was never truly deep. The company changed hands again in 1994, this time to a group of Malaysian and Indonesian investors who struggled just as those before them had. By the late 1990s, Lamborghini had passed through 5 different owners in 20 years. The brand was exhausted, underfunded, and desperate for stability. It needed someone with the resources to give it a real future, not just another rescue. That someone arrived in 1998. Ferdinand Piëch, chairman of Volkswagen AG, and incidentally the grandson of Ferdinand Porsche, was in the middle of an ambitious acquisition spree. In a single year, 1998, he bought Bentley, Bugatti, and Lamborghini. The raging bull had found a new home, this time under the umbrella of Audi, Volkswagen's premium performance division. Audi acquired Lamborghini in September of 1998 for approximately $110 million. What followed was, by any measure, the most successful chapter in the company's history. Audi brought discipline, engineering depth, and manufacturing precision, things Lamborghini had always been missing when the passion ran out. In return, Lamborghini gave Audi something priceless: soul, the kind of raw, uncompromising identity that no amount of German engineering alone can manufacture. The results were immediate. The Murcielago arrived in 2001, followed in 2003 by the Gallardo, the most commercially successful Lamborghini ever built. The Gallardo brought in a new generation of customers who might not have been able to afford a Murcielago, but who wanted that unmistakable snarl, that drama, that sense of standing apart from everything else on the road. Over 14,000 Gallardos were sold before production ended in 2013. For a brand that had gone bankrupt 25 years earlier, it was nothing short of a resurrection. And yet, in a twist that would have made Ferruccio himself laugh or perhaps raise an eyebrow, Lamborghini's biggest commercial revolution came not from a supercar, it came from an SUV. In 2017, Lamborghini introduced the Urus, a four-door, all-wheel drive, family-suitable SUV wearing the badge of the most outrageous car brand on earth. Just as Porsche had faced with the Cayenne years before, the backlash was swift and loud. Lamborghini loyalists called it a betrayal. Purists wrote furious articles, and then people actually drove it. The Urus was fast, genuinely, embarrassingly fast for something that could seat 5 adults with luggage. It combined the practicality that wealthy buyers increasingly demanded with the drama and identity that only Lamborghini could deliver. Today, the Urus accounts for over half of all Lamborghinis sold globally. It didn't dilute the brand, it funded it. Ferruccio Lamborghini passed away on February 20th, 1993, from a heart attack at the age of 76. He didn't live to see the Volkswagen era, the Gallardo, the Huracan, the Urus, or the factory that now sprawls across 160,000 square meters in Sant'Agata Bolognese. But in a way, everything that came after carries the blueprint he laid down in anger on a drive home from Maranello. He proved that wounded pride, channeled in the right direction, can build something extraordinary. He proved that the best response to being dismissed is not an argument, it's a raging bull, a V12 engine and 60 years of history that nobody can take away. Lamborghini today remains one of the most recognizable and coveted car brands in the world. It is still built in the same small Italian town where Ferruccio started everything. It is still powered by engines that trace their lineage back to a design commissioned in fury. And it still wears the bull, Ferruccio's zodiac sign, his symbol, his warning to anyone who thought a tractor maker had no business building the world's greatest supercars. He showed them otherwise.